Hey guys, tonight we travel deep into the spine of the world, the Himalayas. Imagine thin air, the smell of damp pine needles, and trails that vanish into clouds so thick they could almost swallow sound itself. Somewhere up here, long before highways and border posts, men and mules carved winding paths through stone and snow. These were not just roads, they were lifelines. They carried tea, green, black, brick-shaped, and priceless, linking kingdoms that rarely spoke the same language, but always shared the same addiction to the fragrant leaf. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You begin at dawn, just above the tree line. The world below is still dreaming, while a faint smell of wood smoke rises from a distant village. A narrow track snakes through the mountain, carved into the rock like a vein of memory. You hear the soft clinking of bells tied to a line of pack mules, each carrying neatly wrapped bricks of compressed tea. The traders leading them move silently, wrapped in wool cloaks that flap like wings in the wind. These trails, sometimes called the tea horse roads, once stretched from the plantations of Assam and Yunnan to the roof of Tibet and beyond. You picture yourself walking behind one of those traders, boots crunching frost, lungs burning with altitude, yet the promise of profit, or maybe peace, pushing you onward. Tea wasn't just a drink here, it was a passport. It crossed mountains, changed empires, and flavored diplomacy. In the 17th and 18th centuries, entire economies in Nepal, Sikkim, and Tibet revolved around tea bricks. Those blocks were as valuable as silver, traded for salt, wool, and horses. Every sip of butter tea you'd find in a monastery was born of that exchange, a creamy, salty echo of commerce racked in faith. Historians still argue whether these trails began for trade or tribute. Some say they were born for necessity, a way for highlanders to survive the cold by swapping yak butter for tea leaves. Others believe the paths were sacred before they were commercial, connecting monasteries long before markets. Whatever the truth, they soon became arteries of both culture and economy. As you climb higher, you can almost feel the history pressing against your ribs. Each turn reveals something unexpected: a pile of carved mani stones beside the road, prayer flags fluttering across a chasm, or the ruins of an old resting post where merchants once brewed tea under the stars. The wind hums softly through the valleys, carrying faint echoes of laughter, of deals struck and songs sung. You pause near a waterfall frozen into glassy silence. The air tastes metallic, sharp. Somewhere nearby, a villager offers you a wooden cup filled with steaming tea. It's earthy, thick, almost buttery. The taste surprises you, not delicate like modern blends, but rugged, smoky like the road itself. A quirky detail for you: some caravans used to carry singing kettles. These were copper pots with tiny holes in the spout that whistled in the wind. Part practical, part spiritual, believed to keep away spirits of the cold. It's hard not to smile at that. Imagine your travel thermos doing the same thing on your next mountain hike. You move on, following the trail as it disappears into another sea of fog. You realize this road isn't forgotten. It's merely sleeping, waiting for footsteps like yours to remind it that it once carried the dreams and civilizations.
By nightfall, the sky turns violet and the first stars blink awake. The scent of burning juniper drifts from a monastery nearby. You feel a strange calm, the kind that comes from knowing you're standing where countless others once stood, sipping tea against the chill of eternity. The next morning greets you with a sky so blue it almost hurts to look at. The wind is colder now, cutting through your shawl as you descend into a narrow pass. Below, you see a long line of traders moving single file like ants on a silver thread, each one carrying their own story, their own purpose. Some come from India's lush tea gardens, others from far-off Yunnan, their faces weathered and burnt by a lifetime of sun and frost. You notice something peculiar. Every few miles, the landscape shifts, pine giving way to rhododendron and then to barren rock. Each turn feels like a different world, yet the same rhythm guides them all. Step, pause, breathe, sip tea. This rhythm is ancient, almost sacred. The road is both pilgrimage and livelihood, a reminder that survival here requires patience and trade. The locals call this part of the trail the Whispering Road. They say that if you walk alone at dusk, you can still hear the voices of old traders bargaining in languages no one remembers. You chuckle at the idea, but listen anyway, and for a moment, you really do think you hear something. Every village along this path holds traces of the trade. Worn stone steps where mules once rested. Small shrines with cups of tea left as offerings to the mountain spirits. In one village, you see a carved wooden sign that reads, "Drink deeply, travel safely." A sentiment that hasn't lost its wisdom. Historically, these Himalayan tea routes linked more than just markets. They were veins of diplomacy. Tea served as both offering and symbol, shared between rival chieftains or gifted to monks in distant monasteries. In the early 1800s, as British influence crept into India, the East India Company began to map and monitor these trails, realizing that whoever controlled tea controlled hearts and trade. You stop near a small settlement, watching as a group of elderly women sort tea leaves under the sun. Their fingers move fast, practiced, efficient. One of them tells you that her grandmother used to send tea bricks as dowries because tea lasted longer than silver and was worth more than gold during the winter months. It's a quirky, touching image. A marriage sealed not by rings, but by tea. Nearby, a monk pours you a cup of butter tea again, this time in a bronze bowl. The liquid ripples as he speaks. Tea teaches patience, he says. You wait for the boil. You wait for the steep. You wait for the warmth. You sip quietly, realizing he's not talking about tea anymore. By late afternoon, the weather shifts again. Clouds roll in thick and heavy, swallowing the peaks. You pull your scarf tighter and continue walking as sleep begins to fall. The sound of your boots crunching on snow mixes with the low bells of the caravan ahead. Someone hums an old song about rivers of tea and mountains of salt, a melody that has probably echoed here for centuries. Historians still argue whether these routes directly influenced the Silk Road or remained isolated networks. Some scholars believe merchants deliberately kept them secret to preserve trade monopolies, while others think the terrain itself acted as a natural filter, allowing only the bravest or most desperate travelers to pass. Either way, their legacy seeped quietly into the veins of history. As the light fades, you come across a small stone hut, one of many ancient rest houses built for travelers. Inside, it's dim, civil and warm, the air thick with the smell of yak butter lamps. Someone hands you a steaming bowl of lentil stew, and you realize how these simple shelters kept entire civilizations moving. The walls are covered in faded murals of merchants and monks, teapots and horses, images that blend trade with devotion. You lie down on a straw mat near the fire. The wind howls outside, but inside, time feels paused. The tea routes may have been dangerous, but they also connected worlds. India to Tibet, Tibet to China, and mountains to men's hearts.
You close your eyes, feeling that soft hum again. The same hum that runs through every home when a kettle begins to boil. Maybe that's what connects all of us. Warmth, waiting, and the promise of something brewed from patience. Morning comes softly, with a pale sun rising over frost-tipped ridges. You wake to the muted clatter of kettles and the low hum of traders preparing their loads. Outside, the trail glows golden as the mist begins to lift, revealing a narrow path carved right into the mountain's bones. The air smells of wood smoke, wet earth, and faint traces of tea leaves packed tightly into mule bags. You walk again, always upward it seems, and watch how the caravans move like a living organism. Bells jingling, hooves crunching, men shouting in a dozen dialects, all blending into a rhythm that feels older than language itself. You're not just crossing mountains, you're walking through time. Every footstep carries the weight of 1,000 before it. Halfway through the day, you stop at a small plateau overlooking a river gorge. Down below, you spot remnants of an old suspension bridge made of braided vines, now frayed and broken. The locals say it was once part of the tea road of salt and wool, one of the lesser-known branches connecting Nepalese traders to the Tibetan plateau. Historians still debate whether it was used primarily for tea or for salt, but most agree it carried both, because every journey, they say, balanced comfort and necessity. You imagine it vividly. 17th century traders inching across that fragile bridge, prayer flags fluttering, their faces set with quiet determination. Every step could mean survival or disaster. Yet they came, again and again, because tea wasn't just a luxury, it was energy, warmth, and medicine wrapped in one. Later, at a remote monastery perched against a cliff, you're invited inside for shelter. The walls are painted deep red, the air thick with incense and the faint hiss of boiling water. A young novice offers you a cup of salted yak butter tea and smiles shyly. His head is shaved, his robe patched in places, but his eyes gleam with quiet pride. He tells you a curious legend whispered among the monks, that the first tea leaves ever to reach this monastery were carried by a snow leopard. The creature, they say, had wandered down from the Chinese side, its fur dusted with green leaves after rolling through a trader's lost bundle. When it shook itself out near the temple, the monks took it as a sign from heaven, an invitation to brew what the gods had delivered. You smile at the absurdity, but there's something comforting in the image of divine accident shaping history. That evening, the senior monk shows you an ancient scroll, fragile parchment inked with meticulous script. It's a list of goods traded through the mountains: bricks of tea, rolls of silk, bundles of salt, and sometimes manuscripts. One entry reads, "Tea exchanged for words." You stare at that phrase, realizing how trade was never just material. Ideas too traveled these paths. Philosophies, recipes, medicines, even melodies. As darkness deepens, thunder echoes through the valleys. Lightning briefly illuminates the distant peaks, making them glow like ghostly guardians of the trade. You huddle close to the fire, watching as the monks calmly continue their chants, steam rising from their cups. It's hard not to admire their balance, the harmony between devotion and daily life. Between the rumble of the storm, you catch fragments of conversation about how these routes changed when British tea plantations began dominating markets. Some say the ancient paths died, others argue they simply evolved. Historians still argue whether the Himalayan tea trade faded naturally
or was deliberately erased by colonial systems that wanted new routes, faster profits, and easier control. Before you sleep, you think about how fragile history can be, how easily one empire's map can overwrite another's memory. Yet the taste of the butter tea lingers, salty and strange, a reminder that not everything can be replaced. When you wake again, dawn has broken clear and cold. The storm has passed, leaving behind a silver world. Somewhere far below, you hear the faint chime of mule bells, a sound that's part lullaby, part heartbeat. You take another sip from your wooden cup, now empty but still warm, and feel something ancient settle in your chest. Out here, surrounded by snow and silence, you realize that tea was never just a drink. It was a conversation between mountains, between peoples, between centuries. Every sip carried a story, steeped in patience, passed hand to hand through the thin air of the Himalaya. You leave the monastery behind as dawn spills like gold over the mountain crests. The trail widens here, and the world feels both vast and intimate, like you're walking across the spine of time itself. Below you, clouds swirl like spilled milk, hiding valleys where kingdoms once plotted, traded, and vanished. By midday, you reach a windswept ridge where traders once built small stone markers to guide each other through snowstorms. Some of those cairns still stand, weathered but defiant. Each pile of rocks feels like a message left across centuries. We pass this way too. Keep going. Farther ahead, the air grows thinner, and with it, the sense of history sharpens. You start to see traces of something bigger. Crumbling foundations of outposts, broken pottery, and faded carvings of tea leaves etched into boulders. This was no ordinary trail. It was the artery through which power once flowed silently. Historians still argue whether these routes were maintained by local mountain lords or under the hidden patronage of imperial agents. What's certain is that both the British and Chinese empires knew the value of tea. To control its flow was to control warmth, trade, and even diplomacy. You pause at the ruins of an old trading house, its roof long gone. Inside, the stone walls are blackened with soot, remnants of fires lit by merchants who once debated politics over steaming cups. Someone, centuries ago, scratched a crude map into the wall, jagged lines leading from the Himalayas to Calcutta, then branching toward the sea. A thin curve of ink marks another direction, toward China. Beneath it, a single word remains legible: bridge. The world may have changed, but those bridges, both real and metaphorical, still connect us. A soft wind carries you into a small settlement. Here, a handful of stone houses cling to the cliffside, their wooden balconies draped with drying herbs. A wrinkled man waves you over, smiling with 2 missing teeth. He pours you a cup of smoky tea brewed from leaves grown lower down the valley. He says, "Same as my grandfather's, only the road is quieter now."
He gestures to an old chest, carved with swirling lotus motifs. Inside are yellowed letters sealed in wax, British handwriting, faded but still legible. They describe experiments with tea cultivation, attempts to bring Himalayan flavors to the plains. You read one aloud. The altitude grants the leaves a clarity unmatched by our gardens, yet the mountain folk guard their methods fiercely. There's irony in it, how empires tried to replicate what nature had already perfected. Later that night, as the village settles into silence, you listen to stories told by the hearth. One tale describes a British spy disguised as a botanist sneaking along these same routes to map out tea-growing regions. They say he hid his coded notes inside hollow bamboo shoots disguised as walking sticks. The locals laughed at his clumsiness, but admired his determination. He never returned. Some say he fell into a gorge. Others claim he stayed, married a local woman, and opened a tea house. You sip your tea and imagine both possibilities. By moonlight, the landscape turns silver blue, every snow ridge glinting like porcelain. Somewhere beyond those peaks, caravans once carried tea bricks stamped with Chinese characters, currency, sustenance, and gift all in one. You think about how something so simple, dried leaves steeped in water, once dictated politics and powered empires. The next morning, you find an old traveler's note wedged in a rock crevice. The road is silent, but the air remembers. You tuck it into your pocket. As you descend into the next valley, the trail grows rougher. You stumble upon remnants of a collapsed wall, perhaps once part of a British rest stop. Scattered around it are fragments of porcelain cups, blue glazed and delicate, absurdly fragile against the harshness of the Himalayas. You hold a piece up to the light and catch a reflection of your face, ghost-like in its curve. You can almost hear it, the hiss of tea pouring, the murmur of strategy whispered between men who believed they were reshaping the world one sip at a time. But the mountains, indifferent and eternal, kept their secrets. By the time night falls again, you've reached a lonely pass marked by a weathered wooden sign, its words barely visible beneath moss. To the empire's edge. You laugh softly. Maybe that's what this road always was, the edge of ambition where human plans froze before the peaks. As you make camp, you think of how the Himalayas witnessed not only trade, but quiet rebellion, the refusal of the mountains to bend fully to any empire. The tea flowed, yes, but it belonged to no one. And somewhere in the dark, the kettle begins to whistle. Dawn breaks like silk, tearing gently across the horizon. The peaks glow amber, then blush rose, as if the mountains themselves are awakening from centuries of memory. You rise, stretch, and feel the cold bite your skin, a cold so pure it almost hums. The road before you curls downward, winding into valleys dotted with prayer flags and the ruins of forgotten tea houses. Here the world feels suspended between centuries. The forgotten tea roads are more than abandoned trails. They're arteries of memory. You step carefully around stones etched with foreign words, half Sanskrit, half Tibetan, maybe a trace of English. The letters spell fragments of trade logs, names of merchants, dates of festivals. They're the breadcrumbs of commerce and faith left to be deciphered by the wind. You walk past a tumbled archway where once stood a checkpoint of sorts. Local guards collected tolls in handfuls of dried tea or lumps of rock salt. They weighed the tea on carved wooden scales, adjusted for altitude, humidity, a forgotten science of its own. One merchant record mentions that on especially hot days, they cooled the scales by laying them over fresh snow. Ingenious, if impractical. Historians still argue whether these checkpoints were truly neutral or controlled by rival lords who taxed the tea to fund small mountain wars. Either way, tea bought peace as often as it bought power. A single leaf, well traded, could save a village or start a feud. By midday, you reach what remains of a trading outpost. A sprawl of broken stone walls, a collapsed roof, and the faint trace of a courtyard where caravans once gathered. A few prayer wheels still spin lazily in the breeze, their bronze sides polished smooth by generations of hands. You can almost see it, a crowd of merchants laughing, bartering,
sipping steaming cups as snow drifts silently beyond the gate. Nearby, a crumbling sign still clings to a wooden beam. Faded red paint spells out a single phrase: tea before all things. You can't help but grin. That could have been the unofficial motto of these mountains. You meet an old woman sitting beside the ruin, her shawl wrapped tightly against the chill. She's roasting barley over a small fire. It smokes sweet and earthy. She offers you a cup of butter tea, thick, salty, and warming in a way that defies logic. My grandfather used to walk to Lhasa with mules. He said tea was the only thing that never betrayed him. You sip slowly. It tastes like history, like every conversation, bargain, and whispered prayer that once echoed through these mountains. Further down, you spot an ancient tea house, its roof mostly gone, its wooden beams leaning at impossible angles. Inside, carved into the wall, you find drawings, lines of travelers, bundles of tea, and mountains that seem to stretch forever. Someone, perhaps centuries ago, left behind their travel diary in art form. One sketch shows a man holding a steaming cup beneath a banner that reads, "Road of Clouds." You smile. That name fits perfectly. As evening drapes itself over the ridges, you find a ledge overlooking a distant valley. From here, the view is endless. Wisps of mist curl like ghosts of old caravans, and for a fleeting moment, you swear you can hear the faint clink of ceramic cups and the murmur of traders speaking in dozens of tongues. You realize something. The tea roads weren't just paths of trade, they were networks of human connection. Through these passes flowed not just leaves, but stories, philosophies, languages, even recipes. It was globalization before anyone had a word for it. Now, centuries later, the world has changed. Modern roads have carved new scars into the mountains, airplanes carry tea across oceans, and GPS has replaced the cairns of stacked stones. But the essence remains. The Himalayas still guard their secrets, and every sip of Darjeeling, Oolong, or Pu'er carries a whisper of these forgotten trails. You breathe deeply, letting the crisp air fill your lungs. Somewhere far below, a prayer bell rings, a single soft chime. It echoes up the slopes, wrapping itself around you like a memory. The journey ends not with a destination, but a realization. The true road was never just the path beneath your feet, but the lineage of hands that pass the warmth of tea from one generation to the next. You take one last look at the mountains before night folds them away. The stars rise sharp and countless. The wind cools. The kettle in your camp begins to murmur, and you smile, knowing that even here, at the edge of silence, human warmth persists. Now, as the story fades into night, let your breathing slow. The image of those high passes softens, the cold thins, and the distant bells melt into a faint hum, steady, calming, like the rhythm of your heartbeat. You can almost taste the warmth of the tea again, the way it soothed the bones of travelers long gone. Imagine their hands cupping the same kind of vessel you might hold tonight, steam curling upward, carrying the scent of earth, rain, and time. The caravan trails blur into mist, their footsteps swallowed by snow. The mules rest, the merchants sleep, and even the mountains seem to exhale. Every echo quiets itself until all that's left is the steady whisper of wind against rock. There's comfort in that silence,
the kind that reminds you how small yet enduring human effort can be. We build, we wander, we brew warmth against the cold. That's all any civilization has ever really done. So breathe in deeply. Let the story dissolve